What's good, America? It's your man, Big Flo, back with another episode of the Big Flo Show. I'm joined today with my brothers. Now, I have to say brothers because it's National Signing Day, and everyone on the screen today's son, life changed forever. They signed what they call a National Letter of Intent, which is a cool scholarship to Northwestern University. As you know, that's my hometown, so it takes a special place in my heart. But let's be honest, free school, it's a great education. I don't care if it's my hometown or your hometown. We're excited. What's good, man? Welcome aboard, everybody. How you guys doing today?
Doing great.
Excited.
That's good. So
Glad to be here.
This is my first time ever doing a show with four people. So there's going to be some talking over each other's going to happen, but everybody just deal with it at home. So first we'll start off with just the way the Brady Bunch corner starts with Ben. Ben Bruss, son Braden Bruss, linebacker coming in. Monster guy with great story. We've got Dan McGuire first. His son is Dan the second, which is Deuce. We like to call him Deuce. Only Irish guy you're probably ever going to meet named Deuce. You're going to be expecting something different when you see Deuce McGuire. And then Nick Herzog. We have Tom Herzog, father of Nick Herzog, who's one of the most athletic linemen that you're ever going to see if you watch some of his workout tapes. So thanks for being on the show, guys. Really appreciate you today.
Good to be here.
Let's get started. Talk about, first of all, let's say signing day. So it was 7:00 is when you can officially sign your letter of intent and send it in. It was 7:00 last at Ben in California. So we're gonna start with you. What was your morning festivities like?
Well, we had everything ready. Braden apparently had his alarm set, but I had to wake him up at about 10 to 7. So got him out of bed, and it was just him and I, kind of low key. Did the signing, sent it right in, and he got an immediate response, and then got a call from the linebackers coach, Tim McGargle. Also got to talk to Coach Fitz, so that was pretty exciting. And we're actually going to do our celebrating on Friday, kind of the more public signing, and then have a little party that night. So
okay, your school didn't do anything yet today.
Correct.
That's good. Dan, what about you guys? So Dan is like myself, a hometown guy. He's from Chicago. His high school's Marist High School for his son. For those Big Flo Show fans from Chicago, we definitely know Marist High School. What did they do for Deuce today?
So we had 5 kids signing this morning. So myself and my wife Eileen and our 2 daughters went with Deuce this morning, and we got to school about 10 to 7, and a little after 7, Deuce sent it in, and he got on the phone with Coach Anderson and Coach Fitz. And about 7:15, the school started the ceremony. It was a nice event. They had, like I said, four kids, 3 D1 players. So that was nice. And the AD talked a little bit, and the head coach talked about each kid. And they would call them up. They would go through the signing, and then they, at the end of it, they showed a video on each player.
That's good. Where'd the other kids go?
One is linebacker is going to Michigan, and interesting story. He came on the radar real late. The quarterback is going to Coastal Carolina, and then the wide receiver is going to Dayton.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. So
yeah,
a lot of good talented kids over at your school. Yeah. Tom, what things go like with you guys, or did you guys have it later?
Yeah, no, we have a little bit later at 3:30. So I'm here in Overland Park, Kansas, which is right outside Kansas City. So
we got, for those of you guys don't know, Sprint is headquartered there.
That's right. It's Sprint, and we like to also claim, I think as many other places do, the
just don't start talking about your barbecue.
I was just going to go there.
I don't want to click you off, man. Gates Barbecue is bad barbecue. I don't know what everybody's.
It's not.
There's a barbecue in the gas station.
Okay, we're going to have another whole show on barbecue. You've already seen my pictures. I've
seen your setup, man. You've got a mean setup, but you did not learn that at Gates Barbecue. You learned it maybe at the gas. What's the gas station barbecue called again?
It was Oklahoma Joe's. Now it's Kansas City Joe's. So it was. I have in Oklahoma, Kansas City.
I went there. I used to be in sales, and Sprint was one of my customers. And I took a customer out, and he said, "We got to go for lunch." I'm like, "Good." I'm younger, so my expense account lunches are exciting for me. I don't have to pay for it. And the guy's like, "All right, pull in this gas station." I was like, "I don't need any gas." He's like, "No, this is where we're eating." I was like, man, it's on me. I got this. Like, what are we doing? And he said, no, let's go in there. Some of the best barbecue I've ever had.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just at that same gas station last week, so it's we got to get there. So we got to do a future show on tailgate barbecue,
Okay.
those things at some
I
point.
promise
So
everybody we're going to do a tailgate version of this show.
it is
Awesome.
lunchtime, and I'm hungry now. So it's now you got me thinking of other things. But we're doing our ceremony today at 3:30. We got 3 other kids signing. We may have one more. I'll find out when I get there. The other kids going to Nebraska, so playing in Big Ten. So that's
Okay.
already started some
Alignment?
talking.
Are they going to tussle a little bit? Or
Yeah, oh yeah, they've already started. No, he's just a kicker. So
don't say just a kicker. Just
Well-
a kickers. You've obviously never lost by 2.
well,
You don't say just a kicker.
you know what? We're gonna have to rewind and delete that. So I'm gonna get in trouble.
It had it blurred out over his face with this protection.
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, no, he's a great kicker. Actually, 5-star kicker, and set the longest field goal in Kansas this year. So the other kid we have is Sterling Lockett of the Lockett family, and he's
One of
going
the
to
Lockets. Okay.
Yeah.
This is Kansas State family, right?
Yep.
Yep.
So
Is he going to Kansas State?
He is, and going there to play wide receiver. So.
Wow.
So we do that at 3:30 today. Really excited. Much like Dan and Ben is, I woke up a few times last night, in the anticipation. And
I may have been up since 3:30.
And finally I just said, okay, I'm going to get up. Nick was great. He just slept all the way through. So It wasn't Nick's anxiousness. It was mine. And, life-changing event. We've all talked about that. We didn't, to find yourself here is a little surreal. And, Reggie, as you said, it's just, blessed, fortunate, grateful for the opportunity, not just for Nick, but to meet guys like you and the other student athletes. And I've already started a new family that I didn't even anticipate some of the good things that were going to be happening beyond just playing football at the next level.
It's a family you didn't know you want. And I think what a lot of people don't realize, and you try to get it out because it's hard, everyone's like, oh man, your son's got it made, this, that, and the other. And there's, I don't want to say jealousy, but there's always kind of like everything is so golden. They don't realize it's the journey. So when I meet guys like yourself, I think it's no coincidence that we click because we all say, finally, somebody I can talk to about the journey. My son today, we signed in his high school, and it was his coach, an offensive line coach, 2 of his teammates, and one of his best friends and us. That's it. Guys didn't come out and do whatever. We're a little disappointed people didn't really come out, but whatever. But a lot of people, I think the thing is just like, all right, well, it's just another thing this kid's being celebrated for. And, I can get that. That's the feeling that you have, but they don't really understand the grind. Talking about the grind, I know that you guys have come through different sports and got there. So, Ben, I'll start with you again. Talk to us about how Braden came up and what other sports that he was into. He's a world-renowned CrossFit guy at this point, whatever. I actually watched him do some cleans and jerks of weights I can't handle just a few minutes before the show. But talk to us his early stages in the sports that he played.
Mm-hmm. So early on, he did all the sports. He was part of a sports youth league that he went through everything: football, soccer, baseball, basketball. They even had a day of track. So that was when he was in like early elementary school. And then in middle school, it was mainly football and basketball. And I would say early middle is when he really started to develop a love for CrossFit. So my wife's cousin was competing out here in 2011, which kind of, planted some seeds in Braden's mind when he got to see his cousin's name is Rich Froning, compete at the CrossFit Games out here. And he actually won in 2011, and then he proceeded to win in 2012, 2013, 2014. And that's when CrossFit as a sport really started blowing up, and you start seeing a CrossFit on almost every corner. And seeing Rich as kind of his role model and example, Braden really developed an interest and started, getting involved at our local gym. I happen to manage that gym now, and I was involved back then. So that kind of gave Braden a nice entryway just to get involved. And they had a program called CrossFit Kids. He did that, started working with a coach on weightlifting and things like that. And then really full-fledged went after competing in CrossFit. Interestingly, Rich told him, hey, listen, I'm going to let you compete for 1 year. You can do it. He was a freshman year. You can do it for 1 year, and then you're going to focus on football, because there's a lot of kids early on. They see that there's, money involved. There's a professional sport they can pursue. So they start doing that. And some of them literally in high school, they drop out of school, they get homeschooled, they focus solely on CrossFit and kind of miss out on a lot of that, high school experience, high school sports. And Rich, he said, I'm not going to let you do that. You're going to focus on football. You got a lot of potential there.
Not a lot of CrossFit scholarships, last I checked.
Exactly.
Gotta
Exactly.
do
Yeah,
it.
that's why I stayed away from it too.
I mean, that's the only reason why I
Right.
don't do it.
If there was more opportunity, I would have pressed in.
Yeah, if I could go get myself a PhD in something, there has to be a senior citizen college. Like, we got to start one of those up and see if we can get a CrossFit team for that. So
I'm in.
so that's fantastic. And so when did he finish up just football? Or, I mean, obviously CrossFit is kind of maybe just the way he well, let's take a step back. Does he train CrossFit? Is that his primary training? Or does he train like a football player? I know there's a lot of movements that are the same, the explosive movements, the cleans and all those things, but does he do football specific stuff, or is he mostly CrossFit when he works out?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's some gray area there, right? Like, well, is he CrossFit training or football training? Well, there's a lot of overlap, like you said. So there's even a former NFL guy that started something years ago called CrossFit Football. And it was just, kind of combining those two types of training into one. So yes, Braden still does some CrossFit movements and things like that, but it's mainly obviously focused on football. So he's focusing on the weightlifting, some of the agility, some conditioning, but it's I wouldn't say it's a CrossFit focused training, it's football focused training with some CrossFit elements.
That's fantastic. Well, again, he's going to be out there setting, getting his name on the board. In college football, one thing you always want to get your name on the board for this lift, that lift. I know Northwestern's big on ringing the bell and all that stuff. I expect to see a lot of videos on social media of him ringing the bell.
He's excited.
Tom, I mean, Nick is a hell of a workout guy too. To be a lineman, I watched some of his tapes. I'm kind of a social media stalker. I probably know as much about this recruiting class as anybody, as much as I've been watching the tapes. But he's a hell of an athlete too. Talk to us about his early years in sports.
You know what? He definitely diversified early on. We never went down the specialization route, and I know there's always been some debate around that. He actually came into football maybe a couple years later than what others did, and started out in flag football, and then from there he did baseball, he did soccer, he did lacrosse. He did all of it, and
that'd be a scary sight to see him on the lacrosse field. With
it was
dudes
different.
out there. He got the stick. Somebody comes out of a spin move, and he's like, "Hey, buddy."
Giving a big guy a stick on a field and told to go hit people, it was fun to watch. Needless to say, as a big guy, he was a first baseman and he was a lefty pitcher, and each of those disciplines taught him things, both physically and mentally, that I think carried over to sports. It's one of the things I get a lot of parents ask me, what should I do? And I said, let them go explore those things. Don't just go all in on one thing, because the diversification, the mixing it up, it not only trains different muscle groups, but you also learn a different mental game on it as well. The mental game of baseball is far different than football, and then wrestling. When Nick didn't come home and ask us if he was going to wrestle, he told us, "Hey, I signed up for wrestling and I'm wrestling." We had never really grown up in the wrestling sport. And
it's a hard sport to watch if you didn't grow up in it. When you watch somebody, two sweaty kids. My wife only watched maybe one or two of my son's wrestling matches when she was little, and she's like, "I'm busy. I'm not coming anymore."
I'll tell you, maybe one of the most stressful things, and then the workout on top of that. I mean, the endurance that you learn in wrestling is phenomenal. But I'll tell you what he carried away from wrestling. I tell all linemen, if you can wrestle, you should, because the hand fighting, the leverage, the technique, the mano a mano, you got to go figure it out. And when you get yourself in a bad situation, fight or flee. And I think that thing alone was huge. And then, you've seen some of Nick's videos around. He's focused on explosiveness, strength. He wanted to ensure he was highly agile, and really worked on those kind of techniques that were trigger muscle based, in addition to building his base, so that he could bring his unique aspect to the game. And that's what he enjoys. He loves running around the field. He loves making plays, and loves the camaraderie of the game. When you ask Nick what he loves most, it's the in-between time. And I think that's probably true for all our boys, which is the times in between the games when you're each pushing each other to be better, when you're joking around, having fun, just living life, and the game becomes the culmination of brothers coming together to find a way to victory.
And when the game is over, that's what they're going to miss.
Yeah.
You kind of miss the field stuff, but it's more kind of like you put in work, like, man, remember that? But it's like the fact that the four of us went together and we went through hell together and we survived it that you miss. And that's the part of it that I think is so hard to replace in society. So
Yeah.
don't get me started on that. We'll go too much. So, so Dan, I mean, our kids, Ben, Tom, and myself, our kids are kind of the gym rats. The one thing, and if you guys, don't know Deuce well, Deuce is a monster out there. But when you see him, he looks like he's developed like he's 14. Like, wait till this dude, his upside is unbelievable because you're like, oh my God, he's not even filled out yet. He's not even muscular yet. When he gets to be muscular, Deuce is going to chew people down the field. So talk to me about kind of his sports background and how he came to be.
Yeah, so Deuce is young. He just turned 17, so he's a young senior in high school. As a youth, he played everything. He just, and thinking back to when he was a little kid, he just loved every sport. So he played organized baseball, played football, played soccer, played basketball, and then as he got older, he got into travel baseball, travel hoops, and football. And then when he got into high school, he played football and baseball freshman year. Played varsity football as a sophomore. He was getting ready to play baseball again, but then he got his first offer, and he just said, "Hey, Dad, I'm gonna go all in here on football. I'm gonna continue to hit the gym, continue to work hard, and on his speed and agility, and that's where he's at."
What was he in baseball? Pitcher or first baseman or what?
He played primarily first base. First, third base, but for the most part, first base.
I just love to see those. I'm not a big baseball guy, but I love to see those big guys coming off the mound. And by the time they let the ball go, they're halfway by your face. So it's interesting there.
He could bring it, but his accuracy wasn't that great.
Yeah, let's not get too specific, right?
Yeah.
I throw the heat. Everybody backs off the mound anyway.
That's
They can't
exactly
tell
right.
if it's a ball or a strike and do whatever.
For sure.
So they go through the training and they go through this grind. Talk to me about when you thought your kids could be special in football. I mean, what level was it? People always tell you, right? I get guys all day today, calling me, says, "I told you so. I told you he'd be fine. I told you this." I'm like, "Yeah, you did, but you didn't have the alternative of him not being good or paying for college or doing the stuff or whatever. So you didn't have the stress." When did you guys, and I'll start with you again, Dan, right now. When
Sure.
did you think, okay, I think I might have something here?
Okay, so Deuce has always been gifted with size and coordination. That's what I would, best way to describe. He's always for a kid his size, he was always very coordinated. So he goes and he plays freshman football. Mm-hmm. And then in the spring of that year, comes home, and the college coaches were coming to school, and he's telling me all these college coaches are pulling him out. And he got invited to a couple of junior days. I didn't know what a junior day was. I called up the head coach. Anyways, Kansas State was the first one to invite him. And I'm like, I called the head coach. I said, "What's a junior day?" And he explained to me what a junior day was. He's like, "If you can get him there, get him there." He's like, he's getting on the radar. So we hit a couple of junior days during the spring of his freshman year. And then he went to two camps. He went to Iowa and Northwestern. And I thought he did fine. He was going up against some seniors. He held his own. And then we go and we play varsity football as a sophomore, and he did. I'm his dad, so I think he did well, but you still don't know. And then after his varsity season, college coaches started coming in again, and he called me one day. He said, "Dad, the Iowa offensive line coach came in and told me that he's only looking at 12 linemen. I'm one of the 12. Doesn't want me going to any more junior days. He wants me to come to."
I like that. He's already trying to limit him.
Yeah,
trying to hold him in there.
He's like, "I want you to come to spring practice." And he's like, "If I don't offer you by summer, come back to camp." But he's like, "I'm here to tell you, you're one of the 12. And Illinois was showing a lot of interest in him at the time. So right then, I'm like, "Man, you're on to something." And then next day, he got his first offer and just took off from there.
Fantastic. How many offers did he end up with?
21.
21. That's a nice number. It's a good number.
Yeah.
Ben, what about you? I mean, you didn't know if he's going to go CrossFit games, become a model? What did you weren't sure what he was going to do. When did you realize you had something there?
Yeah, he was always athletic, but a lot of kids are athletic, and there's a certain, I guess, type of kid that is going to do well as a football player in high school as opposed to just an athlete. So, it's one thing to be athletic. It's another thing to be a football player. So I just wondered how that was going to pan out because football was his favorite sport. He really wanted to excel there. At times, maybe 8th to 9th grade, I wasn't sure if he was going to go the CrossFit or football route. He really focused on football. And to say, when did we recognize there was something special? I guess his freshman year, the varsity coach kind of left it up to us whether we wanted to allow Braden to just go full on varsity or start with freshman or maybe JV and then work his way to varsity. So that was just an indicator that, our son's a freshman and he has the option to play varsity. That's a good sign. Still didn't know how that was going to pan out for the next 4 years. But then I would say one of the things that stands out in my mind is his weightlifting numbers early on. So freshman year, he was putting on some big numbers, bigger than a lot of the seniors. And so that kind of got me thinking, there's some potential here. And then his sophomore year is when things really started to happen. So I think that's when he started to get a lot of looks from college coaches. Offers started coming in. You hear other high school coaches talking to him after the game and some of the things they said. And just his performance on the field in some of those games was like, all right, so maybe he does have a future here. So I would say that's kind of when it became a reality.
Okay. And when did he get his first offer?
It was after his sophomore year. It came in from the Pac-12, and then they started kind of trickling in after that. So, yeah, right after his sophomore year.
That's fantastic. Okay, Tom. Talk to us about you guys. When did you realize he was going to be something?
I remember Nick went into his freshman year. I'm, kind of like Dan. I'm a dad, so I figure I'm biased and I'm not going to believe anything that I tell myself. So
yeah,
I just kind of see how it plays out. And started having, some coaches and some other guys saying, Nick has a path here if he wants it. He's got to want it. And I remember they had a conversation with Nick and said, Nick, and this is his freshman year, if you want this, this is what you got to go do. And I didn't pay much attention to that, but I'll tell you, something clicked within Nick. He self-actuated. I've never had to beg, plead, or get Nick up to go do any of those things. I think that's common amongst all of our boys is they all take that self-initiative to go make that happen. And then lo and behold, he's doing things that in between his freshman and sophomore year that I was kind of surprised. And when we went to camp and went to several camps that year, a lot of people started seeing. And then when it first dawned on me, specific to your question, is when his fellow teammates, some of the seniors, started making comments because they don't give. They're more honest and they don't give easy feedback because they're tough.
Kids are brutal these days, man.
They're very brutal.
They're not the feel good. They'll be like, man, this dude's terrible. You'll never play.
Well,
I'll tell you that quick, especially if you get early success.
I remember a senior coming up to me and saying, we really appreciate Nick playing and he's got a path. Well, the second moment was he was working out with a trainer named Joseph Potts here locally. And he was working out with some college guys and they did some filming and as a sophomore going into his sophomore year. So the summer he went against some college guys and really showed some things. Well, that tape blew up. That was I would say that was the tipping point. And he, after a few games his sophomore year playing varsity, he got his first offer late in the sophomore year. And then offers started coming in and he kind of like Dan and Deuce or Ben he said, you know what, I'm going to double down on this and I want to go see how far I can go. And when we first took the path, we were just shooting for, D2 schools and some other things.
It's funny. It's funny how satisfied you'll be. And then you get this level and then you want this, then you get to this level, you want that, but your opinion changes pretty quick. As things go by.
Within a handful of months, he literally I think probably 3 months, he got an offer from each P5 D1 school. And all of a sudden we're like, is this real? I mean, to me, he's still my boy. I mean, he doesn't pick up his stuff and I got to get on him about stuff. And those are not opportunities I had. So we all sat down, had a really hard conversation. Said, if you want to do this, then let's press in and figure out how we can work together as a family to find the right fit for you.
That's fantastic. I know for me, just to throw it in there, even though I'm asking the questions, I'll chime up here. People always were saying, hey, since I played D1 ball, your son will play D1 ball. And I kept saying, my dad didn't play. It's not like it's just stuck in the family and everyone else is going on that you can do it. And then I started thinking, my son started off as like a tackle and then or a guard and a tackle or whatever. And I kept thinking, I don't know if he's going to be thick enough. I used to be real skinny. So I'm like, I don't know if this dude's going to be thick enough to be a lineman. But then, he started to kind of show some skill guy stuff, which I'm not a skill guy. If I can't put my hands on you and force you to do it, I'm not going to be very successful. So as time went on, he started to kind of make it. And, freshman year, they put him on varsity. I was like, okay. So they didn't throw him the ball. There's a guy, he's a top receiver for Nebraska now, but he was a quarterback. I can't remember what his name is. He played for Simeon High School. You might remember his name, Dan.
Yeah, it will come to me
He's
here.
supposed to go to Texas Tech. He had some issues, and then he went to the prep school, and now he's whatever. So we played against Simeon High School. My son started at receiver. He didn't smell the ball. He just blocked and did whatever. I always knew he could block because he started off as a guard or tackle. It's the fourth quarter. We're down 30-0. And they're like, all right, let's throw him a screen. And, at this point, I've resigned myself to the fact thinking he's not going to catch the ball today. It'll be the next game. We're getting whooped. It's whatever. Catches the screen. He comes in, busts outside. I'm like, okay, got to come. Boom, to the house, 46 yards.
Woo.
I went from silent the whole game to completely no voice in 46 yards. It doesn't take him that long to run 46 yards. But I'm like, okay, I can't talk. I am so unbelievable. This is crazy. So we came back. We ended up losing 30-20. But we might have this comeback. But I was like, man, Simeon's pretty fast. Simeon is a pretty fast school. You know what I mean? You got some pretty fast kids. And I'm like, I can't catch him. Oh, my God. He's a freshman. So then that kind of works out. We end up having a transfer situation. My son switches to a different school. And then we get to freshman year. So it's the second semester freshman year. He's at the new school. And this is going to transition to kind of some other questions. He's at a school now that is known for producing talent, right? So he's working out with a D1 quarterback guy named Sam Jackson that's at Texas Tech. He worked out with the Michigan State quarterback,
Thorne.
and then their top receiver. They trained in the season. So he's kind of running around these guys. And I'm still at the age where I got to drive him places. So I'm kind of watching. I'm trying to let him go. He's 14. He don't want me hanging out. But I tell a lot of jokes. So his friends don't hate me. So I'm watching a little bit. I'm like, okay, he kind of looks like some of these guys. Then we have a little workout with Michigan State's watching. And the Michigan State coach is like, I think your son's going to be all right. Don't worry about him. I'm like, okay. They didn't offer him. I don't think that was an offer. But I'll never forget, and maybe I could go back if you guys can do your first offer moment. But I had a friend's son that wanted me to teach her son. Her son wanted to get bigger, so he wanted to go to the gym. So I'm in the gym with this kid working out. He's meeting me. He's not a football guy. He's more like a martial arts guy, so he doesn't really understand the enormity of it. And I get a call from Sam Jackson Sr., who's the father of the quarterback. And he starts going, Virginia Tech, screaming, Virginia Tech. And I'm like, hey, it's like 6:45 in the morning, right? And I'm like, hey, congrats, your son got Virginia Tech. He's like, no, Reggie. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, and I'm like, what do you mean? Like, my son didn't get a scholarship. Why are you calling me? He's like, your son just got Virginia Tech. I'm like, I'll call you back. So I try to call his phone. He doesn't answer. And then I call one of the coaches that I knew would be out. They have like early morning throwing sessions. And I call one of the coaches, and that coach answers the phone and he doesn't say hello, but I can hear that he's hurrying, that he's hustling. So in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, he's trying to put Reggie on the phone. Oh my God. And then I lost it. So I'm in the gym training this kid, and I'm like, yes, I'm going nuts. And everyone's looking at me crazy. It's like 7:45 in the morning. And I wanted nothing more than to tell, and I'm sorry because my friend's mom is going to watch this show. I wanted nothing more than just tell him to go home. I did not want to train him anymore. I wanted to run out and go do something different. I got to keep training this guy. He's like, how many sets? I'm like, I don't care, man. However many reps you want to do, man. I can't wait till I get out of here. So I don't know if you guys remember your son's first offer moment. If it was like that, I'd love to hear about that. I'm going to go back to you, Tom. If you don't have one, we could just pass.
No, I do. I mean,
it brings me emotional.
It was surreal and emotional, and I fortunate enough, my wife captured a picture of it, and when he had gotten the call, it sounds like my son, similar to yours, he wasn't calling right away to let me know the news.
Yeah.
Now, to his credit, he wanted to go say it personally.
Mhm.
And when he got home, I could sense by the grin on his face that it was not coming off. And this was his first D1 offer from Big 12 school. And he said, "Dad, I did it." And I was like, "Did what?" And he goes, "I got an offer. I got a full offer scholarship." And man, my wife caught the hug between us two, and I'll carry that forever, because that was a culmination of hard work, grit, chance. And you guys all have been there, watching our boys take risk and put themselves on the line and work through challenges. And to see that is such a special moment in between us as a family, man. It was really cool.
Absolutely. Ben, I'm gonna go to you. Leave Big Dan for last.
Yeah, I remember that moment. And what was cool about that too, just kind of backing up a little bit, was, Braden had not only made it to the CrossFit Games, but had finished 4th out of 10 kids, out of the whole world. So leading up to that, it's similar to the scholarship journey, where you're thinking, gosh, is this really possible? Does he even have a chance? There's so many good athletes out there. And to see him, kind of go through the different stages, making it to the games, and then going to Madison, Wisconsin to compete against, 10 of the other fittest kids in the world, and finishing 4th out of that. It's like, wow, this is real. This is possible. And it was kind of the same thing with the scholarship journey. He had talked to a couple schools, and when he was a freshman, I would have been happy if you said he's going to play college football anywhere.
Anywhere, D3, any place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just for his sake. And I was
I
thinking,
agree.
hey, he gets to play college football. That's awesome.
Yes.
And then to see, okay, so now these schools are talking to him. Oh, now these schools are reaching out. And then to have that offer come through, because, it was a Pac-12 school for us. They were talking to him. And then to see.
You guys can say the names of the schools. You don't have
Well,
to.
okay, it was Colorado.
You don't want to give them up.
Yeah,
That's
well,
okay.
it was Colorado.
Yeah.
And Braden,
They're sore with this. Colorado.
he was just getting out of the shower, and he's, running to my wife and I, who were sitting at the table, and he put him on speaker, and he was mouthing to us, "I think they're going to offer me right now. I think."
That's awesome.
and then it came through, and it was just it was a real special moment.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Big Dan.
Yeah. So the story I told you about the Iowa O-line coach coming in, and then that's when I knew Deuce was onto something. The next day I was actually on the road. He got his first offer from the MAC school. So he's like, he sent me a text from school. He's like, "Hey, I got to talk to you." My initial reaction, okay, you're in some trouble. And then he's like, no, all good. And then he called me, and it's a great moment. And his coach called me and said, "Man, Mr. McGuire, wish you could have been there and seen his face when he got it." But 3 days later, we were scheduled to go on a visit to Illinois, and I was with them, and when they offered, and it was just something I'll cherish forever. It was unbelievable.
That is fantastic. You do mention the difference. So I think my son got the first offer was Virginia Tech, and then he got a couple offers at a camp at North Central College. Good luck to North Central College. They're in the D3 National Championship again. They're right up the street from our house. Peyton Thorne, the quarterback from Michigan State, his dad's the head coach. Great kids that came through our program. Then all the other offers, like I kind of saw him from a distance getting offers and do different things there. But the first offer he ever got in my face was Purdue. And that was like, wow. But then I kind of felt bad because it was just me. My wife wasn't part of it. Then he got an offer at Michigan State. I don't know if my daughter was there, but at least me and my wife were there. And I think that they became the number one pick for my wife right there, because she just finally got a chance to hear it. But ironically, like the one that was really kind of cool and strong and was Northwestern. Fitz called him up and said that they were going to have a call. And I don't know that he had talked to Fitz before. And Fitz, Fitz has got such authoritative voice. He's like, "Right now, I'd like to offer you a full scholarship to the University of or Northwestern University." And he said like full grant and ace, like really dramatic words or whatever. And I remember being in the basement like this, like, "Let's go," So Did you guys get to witness a lot? So Ben, you said your first one that you got to kind of be there for it. Tom, did you have the honor of having a couple in front of you, or was it
Yeah.
mostly?
I mean, I think on that topic alone, what I would tell you is I think how a school offers someone is differentiating. I mean, in making it a moment, you know, and including parents. And I would tell you that's one of the things that stood out for us with Northwestern. It was a moment with not just Nick, but the family. And I think throughout the whole process, they've always been inclusive of not just talking to him, but ensuring that we're in the know or those parts. And I think for some families, that's a bigger deal. I know for Nick, it was a big deal that it was a family thing. And, you know, we had moments where they scheduled a call in some of his offers and they wanted the whole family there. And you're not always sure, you know, you can maybe know, but you don't
Want to be sure. We're sure. Like your buddies are like, man, they're about to give you an offer, but you're like, I don't know. They could be
I
telling
don't
us
know. You never want
he's
to
too
believe
slow,
it.
or you want to inform me your son's ACT
Right.
score was too low. He's not. He can't be
Right.
here.
Yeah. I'm like, hey, I'm like, did something bad happen? You know, I'm like, Dad, hey, what's going on? No, it's all good. I'm always looking for that all good message first, to let them know it's good that we're on a positive path. But, you know, I would tell you, yes, part of that, and it's huge when it happens. For us, that's a family thing. I will also tell you that I think schools that separate themselves are the ones who understand that's a defining moment in the recruiting process, and not just to handle that without a lot of intention, I think is a missed opportunity to make a big impression on everyone.
I couldn't agree more. How much do you guys, and I'm going to come back to that a little bit later when we talk about school choice, how much do you guys think where your kid went to school played a part? I don't know. I know probably more about Dan's than the other two guys just because it's a local, but about, you know, your school produces people in your area or whatever. I know, Ben, you've got the Trinity League out there. So I know some people think if it ain't Trinity, it's nothing. But let's talk about it. And I'll start with you, Ben. What do you think is the impact of where he went to school? Do you think that, and I don't want to put you in a situation where if it's negative, but you think it helped him, hurt him, neutral? What do you think?
Honestly, I would say it's pretty neutral. Our school does not produce a lot of D1 football players. There was a kid, Braden's sophomore year, senior quarterback, who's actually playing shortstop for Ole Miss right now.
Okay.
He's a tremendous baseball player. He's a really good quarterback. So he was recruited as a college football quarterback. He just didn't go that route. Matt Fink is a local kid who was a quarterback that actually played at USC. But those are just here and there.
Fink, you said?
School. What's that?
What was his name?
Matt Fink.
I think he played for USC.
Yeah. He was a backup the past few years.
Okay, I recognize that.
Yeah, a couple of years ago he graduated. But so our school is not known as a local powerhouse, or doesn't have a strong tradition of sending guys to play D1 Power 5 football. In fact, there's a temptation of a lot of local kids to go find that school, find that private school, you know, or go Trinity League, or, you know, Bryce Young actually went to the same elementary school as my son Noah, my 11-year-old. He was a local kid that spent some time in Glendora, then went to Pasadena, and he ended up at, you know, in the Trinity League. So that's kind of the route that a lot of local kids like to take if they want to get looks, if they're really thinking D1 or NFL. We decided to stay local. And it's really kind of special. We had a football banquet the other day, and one of the coaches remarked on that. Like, it's pretty cool to see that, you know, Braden wasn't held back. He didn't transfer. He didn't go the private school route. He just stayed
That's
local.
super rare in California. Braden's only 18?
Yeah, he actually is a young senior, kind of like Deuce. He turned 17 in March. So
wow. Because in California, in the West Coast, if you're a D1 athlete, you're almost always 19 or 20 years old when you graduate. Almost 100%.
It's becoming more and more common. We were kind of laughing because we were watching a modern day game, and they congratulated the receiver that had just caught a touchdown and said, "Oh, he caught a touchdown on his birthday. He's turning 19 today." And we have
I took my son to work out in California during the pandemic. There was a junior receiver, and the guy who was working out with us says, "Oh, the guy's pretty old." And I was like, "How old is he?" "Now he's a junior." He said he voted. I said, "Whoa, you voted? You're a junior in high school. You voted? That's pretty old." But anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah, very, very common out here. So the impact of our local high school, I would say, was pretty minimal, which makes it kind of special, you know.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't trade it for anything. We had a great experience. We had great coaches. I mean, high quality coaches, and it's just a great football program. And some people said, oh, so glad he's going to Northwestern. It's kind of like Glendora at a higher level, So pretty excited about that.
That's nice. What about you, Dan? Did Marist High School, was that part of your decision because of the tradition there, or you just ended up sending him to school, or how did that work out?
Yeah, his two sisters had gone to Marist, and co-ed private school, and I thought he was going to go to Brother Rice, but he wanted to go to Marist, and we supported it, and it turned out great for him. It's
Brother Rice is your alma mater, right?
Correct.
See, that's where our quarterback is from, guys. If you're paying attention,
yes, yeah,
Brother Rice.
Yeah,
he went there because Dan went there. He knew that he could. That's the reason why he went to Brother Rice.
Schools they're Brother Rice and Marist are like 2 miles away from each other, and they both play in the same conference, the Catholic League Blue, which is arguably the best conference in the state of Illinois.
It's the Chicago Trinity League, basically.
And Marist has put. We had four guys signed today, 3 D1 players. They have a lineman that went last year to Notre Dame. They're producing a lot of football players that are going on to the next level, which is Deuce did get the benefit of that because they had got coaches coming. I mean, he would see 9-10 coaches a day.
Yeah.
So,
how about you, Tommy?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're public school, Blue Valley High School, and it's known as a football school and has a good history associated with it. And I would tell you it helped. I mean, not the same volume of players that Dan has shared, but we've produced players at all levels, at all NCAA levels. And that helps because, to Dan's point, when you got other coaches coming through to see players, then you get to see that. Now, really hard and awkward because I think where our sons were, those weren't allowed. So we went through almost a 2-year window, an 18-month window where those visits weren't allowed, but they knew to call and they knew to have that connection. And, and I will say not only did that benefit, but when your kid is competing against other talent that is going to that level, it makes them better. And so not only do you get the exposure, but you get the development as well. So, that definitely was a help on our end.
Yeah, for some reason, there's 5 high schools in the town of Naperville that we live in. We're about 45 minutes away from Northwestern, 45 to an hour away from Northwestern in this town. And for some reason, Naperville Central is more Division I players probably than the rest of the schools combined. And there's no rhyme or reason. Our kids grow up, they play in the same youth sports, they do the different things together, they all know each other, are friends. But for some reason, there's an occasional one from one of the other high schools. But every year, there's a Power 5 kid that comes out of Naperville Central. I'm a firm believer that it's important. Equally as important where you play is how you play. I mean, because I think, when we watch video, we watch film, you look at it and you're like, okay, that looks great, but who's out there? Who's on defense? In basketball, used to be one, you see people's mixtape. I'd watch it first time through. The second time through, I'd watch, and I would just look at the defenders. And sometimes you realize, well, this kid shouldn't even be playing basketball. Like, he looks so terrible. And same with football. You see these guys just run a route. They don't put a move on. They just jog by the guy, and the guy throws it up. You catch a touchdown, or a running back. These guys aren't tackling. So it's so hard. I think, they always say that if you play well, they'll find you. I think we give too much credit to some of these college coaches. They're human too. They've got wives and families that'd like to get back home. If they plop down in the city and they go down to your city, I mean, again, hats off to your kid if he's not at a power high school. But anyone that comes to the LA area is going to the Trinity League schools. If they have time left, they're going to go check out Braden. They're going to go check out whatever. But they're stopping at those schools. So, I think some of these kids out there, you got to try to find yourself. If you can stand out in the school where they like to go and they think players came before you, it's kind of an easier route. So that's not to take away from people, but, looking at a Braden and maybe Nick same way, if they're not producing a ton, hats off to them, because they're paving their own way.
I mean, to your point, and you and Dan have it unique in Chicago, much more developed and, different programs, and the competitiveness there is is not only deep but wide. And I think one of the things that we're fortunate is, and I should have said this, Reggie, it's not just a school. We play in what's called the EKL, which is Eastern Kansas League. It produces more athletes going on to the next level than the other conferences in our state, and and everyone knows that. So to your point, you don't want to just see what someone can do, but how they compete against others who are going to be at that same level. And I think that's the ultimate tell is are you competing with others and still performing or outperforming in that piece? And that's one of the things I encourage parents to do. Don't just consider the team, consider the league you're playing in as well.
Absolutely.
It's no different than baseball. If you're always running up the score and just doing that, I don't know if you're really learning much as you should if you're competing against great talent.
Okay. Let's move on to the recruiting process as far as choices and how we all choose. So we all have something in common, right? We all chose our kids all chose. It's one thing for people listening. You'll think that we're vicariously, but when you go through this process, it really does feel like we. Just like a boxer after the interview is always saying we, but he's the only one they're punching. There's a lot of people in there punching with him, right? So when your kid goes through a recruiting process, it is a we, because there's so many things that go into it that we did. That's a whole new show I could just do just on the little pieces that go into it. And I hope watching you get that. That's why we slip and keep saying we instead of he. But when I'll stay with the we, when we choose a school, talk about the recruiting process and how you think you ended up at Northwestern and what was important there. I'm gonna start with you, Dan.
Okay. So Deuce, before COVID hit, I think he had 3 offers. So he got his first one, I was gonna say January, and then February, March, and then COVID hit. So what I think really benefited Deuce is the year before, he got out to a couple of camps, he got out to a couple of game day visits, and he's been to a couple of junior days. So he got to experience a lot of that a lot of people, in this recruiting cycle and last year's recruiting cycle weren't able to experience. So he got a good feel for a variety of different campuses. And as that year went on, the offers continue to come in, and he had offers from every Power 5 conference, which was awesome. And then we get through December, and then all right, Deuce, let's start figuring this out. And I think in his mind, he wanted to stay in the Midwest. Okay, I mean, Oregon's a great offer, but it's a long way from home. So he it came down to him is what he wanted to stay in the Midwest. He knows what a Northwestern education is going to do for him. He's playing in the Big Ten, playing for a great coach, playing for a great team. And he's just, we were there to support him, answer all his questions. He's the one that sort of came up this is where I want to be.
Fantastic. What about you, Tommy?
No, I would say I like how you phrased it. We've told people that what we've tried to do is walk with Nick, not walk ahead of him, not walk behind him, but walk with him. I mean, so much is being asked of these kids at such a young age to make a life-altering decision. I don't know about you guys. I didn't come across decisions like this till later on in life, maybe till when I was getting married. I mean, these are game-changing decisions. And yeah, it's going to college, and a lot of students make those choices. But you're also talking about where can I reach my greatest potential as an athlete, and how far can I do it and want to be successful. And I think for Nick, it came down to, and I'll say we, Nick, but this was also part of us parenting him on making these decisions. How do you bring this together and compile all the data points? Because he could have made other decisions, and I think those would have been great decisions. This was really comfortable about the decision that was right for him. It was around 3 things: people, academic, and athletics. Getting along and connecting with others. Not just the coaches, but beyond the coach, the strength coach, and then the other athletes. I mean, connecting with your boys, I will tell you, was a huge differentiation, because these are guys he's going to have to spend time with. And for us and what Coach Anderson did, he did a phenomenal job at connecting with Nick and really understanding what drives and motivates him, and taking those things down to where this is where you can go. The academic piece, Dan's already hit on it, is Nick's an academic kid. He really wants to go see. that the whole 4-year, that 40-year decision really resonates with him.
Mhm.
And for us, we have a family mindset of each family generation has the opportunity to bring the next one to the next level. And I see my kid, my daughter, my son is going to do that. They're going to go places that I didn't go at their point in life. Athletically, it was never about the facilities and those things. They're nice, don't get me wrong, but who he competes with and how he competes is ultimately going to help him be the best athletes. And then it really came down to what I would say 5 guiding principles for us. For Nick, it was his values, is what's important to him, his beliefs, his faith, the things that are important to him, and was that going to be understood amongst the people he'd connect with? Allies, just who was going to be his allies. We all know that it's the things that aren't seen that help athletes, students, get to be their best potential. We enjoyed meeting with professors and academic advisors. So when he's struggling with that class, how they're going to go make that happen. Northwestern did a really good job at showing this is how we're going to walk with you. His circle and that connection. And then the last 2 I would tell you that were kind of guiding values or principles for Nick was be honest with yourself. Do you see you going here to school even if you didn't play football? Do you see you hanging out with these guys even if football wasn't here? Because none of us can guarantee those next pass forward. And then that last one was just to understand his boundaries. And are you going to be at a place that you're comfortable with it? You're going to be stretched, but complimented. And what are you going to bring to the table? I think so many times recruiting ends up being this, what are you going to do for me? And Nick's credit, he switched it. What can I bring to Northwestern? What can I bring to the team? What can I bring to my other classmates? And that was a big deal for him.
That's great and very, very well thought out and conscientious. I think he a lot of kids would do well by having your guidance the way that you just broke that down. And I'm thinking in my mind, like, God, did we think of that? I'm sure we thought, okay, he did a good job. But no, that's a fantastic way to approach it. And I think we'll see that in Nick. So, Ben, what about you guys? Now, Ben, I bugged the hell out of Ben, too. So I feel like that was part of this decision. I bugged the hell out of him for 48 hours on our bus tour, trying to recruit him and close him. My son, before it came up, my son bugged the hell out of Deuce. Tom didn't give me as much time. We didn't have much time to get it, but it was.
I was guarded.
I do feel like Ben.
Guarded.
I didn't know if Ben was going to be like, man, I'm tired of this dude, Reggie. Every bus ride, I would end up next to him and his wife, talking to him the whole way. But I enjoyed it.
Well, you know what, Reggie? I would say 2 things really solidify the decision. It was Reggie's pestering and the school colors. That was pretty much.
I mean, it's pretty. What else do you need besides purple and the fat guy talking to
Purple
you?
and black. So kind of similar to Tom's response. There were several things that drove Braden's decision. Ultimately, it was his decision. We wanted to, leave it in his hands. Of course, we're going to guide him and advise him, but we let him know that it was his decision to make. And we visited several schools, and man, after that Northwestern visit, he really appreciated several things. One, he really got a sense of the coaching stability there. Knowing that Fitz has been there 15 years, he just signed a 10-year contract. Nobody's got a crystal ball. Nothing's 100% guaranteed, but looking at the odds, it looks like Fitz is going to stick around. Tim McGargle, another example of coaching stability. And then these guys, for Braden's position, were former linebackers. That was appealing. Mm. And just seeing the history of linebackers at Northwestern as well for Braden, that was a big deal. Seeing the type of kids that were on our visit, and just hearing you guys today just talk more about your sons, it's like, yeah, there's definitely, and Reggie, we talked about this last night. Mm-hmm. There's just a like-mindedness, among these boys, and you could just see it, even meeting some of the players and hearing from them on the visit. There's just a special culture at Northwestern with the type of kids that they recruit and their families, and so that was really appealing to Braden as well. He actually was born in the Midwest. My wife and I went to Michigan State. Braden grew up watching the Big Ten. So even though he grew up in California, we have, come back and visited the Midwest numerous times through his childhood. He's familiar. He claims he likes the cold. and he likes cloudy weather and all that stuff. So I said, all right, this is going to be the true
He's
test.
romanticizing it in his head, but
Exactly. We'll find out. But yeah, he appreciated those things. And I mean, honestly, the academics at Northwestern, you know, they kind of call it the Stanford of the Big Ten or whatever. He was really excited about that.
Stanford is the Northwestern of the Pac-12.
That's a good way to look at it.
There we go, Reg.
I'm out here with that Stanford stuff.
There we go, Reg.
There's a
come on,
soundbite that will be going on a chat somewhere sometime.
Yeah.
For sure. Put that on your bulletin board.
Yeah.
You guys are the Northwestern of the Pac-12, but go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. No, but the thing that kind of solidified it at the end for Braden was we had a chance to talk to a kid that went to my high school in Grand Rapids, Michigan, played for Fitz for 4 years from 2014 to 2018. And my buddy is the principal at that school, knows this kid, said, oh man, this kid's like salt of the earth, amazing young man. We talked to him for about 45 minutes and he had nothing but great stuff to say about Northwestern, the culture he's experienced there, the coaches, etc. And I was like, all right, man, that's it. Now that we heard from an outside source as well,
Yeah.
you know, just speaking into that, that solidified it.
That's fantastic. I'm going to answer my own question on this one too, because I want it to be out in the universe. But as far as we're concerned, Tom had mentioned this before, talking about including the family. So from a recruiting standpoint, when Northwestern offered my son, I knew where he was going to go. It wasn't here. It was someplace else. I'm not going to mention the school. In my mind, this is where he's going to go. We had been thinking this is they're winning, they're leading. He's going. Another school would kind of come in there that we really like the staff, but I thought he's going to this other school. Northwestern from day one, every time they wanted to talk, they said, get so-and-so on the phone. They always wanted to get my wife involved. They wanted my daughter to be involved. They wanted from day one. I'm going to be honest. I even told the school I thought he was going to, hey man, right now, you guys are losing. I texted the coach and said, my wife is involved in everything, right? Everyone thinks just because I was a football guy, let me just talk to dad. We'll just talk to dad. And he responded, well, I thought you were my guy. And my response to him was like, I am your guy, but you can never have too many guys, right? Here's my wife's phone number. We didn't really get anything there. So, you know, if that person ever hears it, they'll know that we're talking about it, but we're never going to get there. But the bottom line is the family aspect. And so the honesty, you talked about, again, another thing with Tom about recruiting differently. My son got offers from schools right now. And I was like, what was the name of the coach that offered you? He was like, they came to my school. They offered me. They left, never talked to him again.
Yeah.
And, you know, we talk about that Virginia Tech. That was his first offer. I ain't talked to Virginia Tech in a long, long time. So, you know, people think you get all these different offers. My son ended up with 15 offers because somebody just offered in the last day, tried to flip him or whatever. But a lot of those schools never, you know, really talked to him. Northwestern told my son what he would have to do to get an offer, which at first kind of, you know, my son had just gotten a bunch of offers. What do you mean tell me? You're going to tell me what I have to do to get an offer? You know what I mean? He was not like that cockiness, but, you know, there was a little bit of like, man, I got to jump through a hoop. And so during the pandemic, we did some stuff on some videos, some workouts, and they offered. And they said, you know what? We saw on that workout what we needed to see. And from this point forward, no one will recruit you harder. And I'm like, whatever, everyone says it. But where other people were hot and cold and ebbed and flowed and depended on different things, from the second they offered, my son, when's the last time you talked to Fitz? It never was 2 weeks ago. Never. It was always like text a week ago, talk to him a week ago, every week. When we went in for academic days and talked to different things, we were lucky too. We missed one. We were supposed to go to Nebraska when they closed down for the pandemic, but we were early hitting these different schools. And I told, and I think I talked to you about this, Ben, and I remember having this conversation with you, Tom. I don't remember if I did with you. Being through it myself and being around it a long time and having a lot of stuff, I said, go to other schools. I know Santo, whatever, the guy that came in from Maryland.
Yeah.
I said, when you go to other schools, I want you to ask yourself this question: who's delivering the message about the academics and the career? I was like, I guarantee you, and I don't have to be there because I haven't been to school. The head coach is going to get up, if it's the head coach or the recruiting coordinator, and he's going to talk about an agenda item, and he's going to turn the mic over to somebody else, and somebody's going to come up and he or she's going to tell you all the stuff that they go do in the workshops they do. I said, Northwestern is the only school that the head coach, when we did our Zoom meeting with him, he talked about his guys in the NFL, and then he gave us 6-7 pages of all the people who are successful in business. If the head coach cares about it, it's important to him, right? And, you know, football is going to only last so long. People hear that's a cliche now, but I know it. I live it. You know, it lasts so long. But if the school and the program care about your kid beyond just getting you to graduation. I say just getting you to graduation because our kids are all good enough students that we expect them to graduate wherever they go. But they care about their career development. I'm so,
Yeah.
So I think when you raise your kid right, your kid will make the decision that you would have made for the most part. Because if you raise your kids with a foundation of morals and you're talking to your kid about stuff and situational stuff, you don't have to force your kid into a decision on what they're going to go make. That kid is going to think about what's going on. My son does it all the time where I ask him to do something or tell him I think I would like him to do something and he says no. And then he kind of does it anyway. Like he kind of figures it out because when he goes back to his room, he thinks about it. He realizes, well, my dad's never lied to me. I always ask him that when he doesn't want to do what I want to do. I was like, do you think I'm against you or you think I'm for you? What do you, am I the enemy now? And I break it down and go through it. So long story short, I think Northwestern checked every single box. Couldn't be happier on how we do it. So I'm not going to hold you guys up too much longer, but I want to ask your opinion on a couple ideas. NIL, that's the new hot topic. We're seeing about that all the time. What do you guys think about NIL in the future and how that's going to go? Let's start out with you, Tom.
I think, Nick and I have talked about this, and, it's only meaningful if you go do something. And so my comment to him was I wouldn't focus a ton on it. You go work hard, keep your head down, grind, and deliver results, and those opportunities may come to you. It's not the reason why he's in it or we're in it. I think there's a lot to be sorted out in that piece of it. I do love, one of the cool things I love seeing is how people are using it to give back to charities. And using that ability, it would be cool to see the linemen come together and do a group NIL type thing that they're able to give back to a local charity or someone else. So I'm starting to see some creativity and innovation off of it. I think that's going to be encouraging. We're less worried about it. I think linemen are also kind of naturally wired that way. I can tell just getting to know Deuce through Nick, they've got a lot of similarities.
But what do they do for a living? They protect other people.
Right.
Like, they get all the glory. Yeah, of course.
I don't see Nick and Deuce and the other linemen sitting around talking about that. They just want to grind, do their job, and know that they excel to the best of their potential as linemen. And whatever comes through NIL, cool.
Absolutely. What about you, Big Ben?
Yeah, I think it's going to present a lot of opportunities for kids. There's going to be positives and negatives, on any team, in any culture, in any program. What I'm not worried about is the type of kids at Northwestern, having kids start to, get more self-minded or that sort of thing, instead of staying team-minded and focusing on, Northwestern as a whole. So for our boys, I think it could provide some great opportunities as long as they keep their head in the right place and stay focused. I think we still are, have a lot to learn, and we're going to see how this pans out. So, which, like you said a few months ago, right now they can just focus on, getting to that next step. And once they're at Northwestern, then we can really start diving into things. So.
Fantastic. Dan, because there's got to be Deuce is going to have, he's marketable, big, tall, redhead kid, good looking kid. What are we going to do? What's our first NIL deal going to be?
What? Kind of, what Ben and Tom had said. I'm not so much concerned about that now. He's going to Northwestern. On a full scholarship. To me, he's ahead of the game already, and whatever comes our way, and we're from the mind thought if something comes our way, make it something that's you're giving back on, and as Tom had mentioned, the O-linemen, they're and this, Reg, they're a different breed. They just keep their head down, work, and what happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think, one thing I'll say, Reg, I think Ben's, I think one of the things that we got to be careful of in college sports in general is I think the negative is we don't want it to take away from the team aspect. It's going to cause some noise out there.
Absolutely.
One guy's pulling in six figures or I can't even imagine going to 7. I've heard that has already happened. And then you got other dudes on the team who are struggling just to, find some money to put together to hang out on a weekend. And so I think it creates a weird complicating factor that's going to change the dynamic. I don't worry about that as much at Northwestern. I think definitely we all got to be looking across the board to see what it's going to do to the bigger game of sports.
Yeah, I want to see our kids make as much money as they possibly can. But when I look at the decisions to go to Northwestern, it's long money versus short money, or quick money versus long money. And I think at the end of the day, there's going to be some schools that you can go to, and the hottest guy is going to get some quick money, some flashy money, some pub, maybe a car, and do whatever. And I think that Northwestern is setting you up so that you can be paying somebody NIL money one of these days. And that's kind of the mindset I'm taking and looking at. Yeah, I do think my son being a receiver, he could probably go to some different schools and bring down some bigger cash. But then the risk reward, is it going to be long-term stuff that's going to do it? So we look at it differently. So we're going to wrap up soon, but I want to say, what kind of advice would you give to other kids? There are kids, a freshman right now, 8th grader right now. He really wants to play college ball. Kind of what's the importance of the method of doing it? Tom, I'm gonna stop with you because I guarantee you probably have a book written on that already. I'm gonna start with Dan. Tom has those long answers. I'm like, you've done this before. This isn't your first podcast. But no offense to you guys, but his answer. So what would you say, Dan? Right now, my son's in 8th grade. He's 6'5". He's kind of skinny. He thinks he's pretty coordinated. He wants to play ball. What do you think?
Is this for me or Tom?
Sorry, I meant to say Dan if I didn't.
Okay, yeah. What I would say is, one, trust the process. Put your head down, work hard, and the recruiting will take care of itself. I would. You know what? Let me add to that. I should say, you know what? I would go to a camp or two after your freshman year, and from there, they're going to let you know. Those camps are going to let you know where you're at, what level you're at. They're by the level of interest they're showing you.
Absolutely. Ben.
Yeah, I like that. What Dan said, for us, we've had friends who have invested in people to help them with recruiting and spent a lot of time and effort and money in areas that I don't think are real effective.
Yeah.
What's that?
And how many ended up with scholarships?
Yeah, very few.
Very few.
It was very, I would say, ineffective overall. Just looking at, man, like Dan said, just trusting the process. And I think the things that throughout our recruiting experience we've learned is that coaches are really interested in film and how your boy's performing on the field. And some of the other numbers, like Dan said, maybe at some camps, maybe they can see the kid in person. And outside of that, I don't think there's any sort of magic pill. There's no secret sauce. It's preparing. I like this, what we've always kind of held to: prepare your kid for the path, not the path for your kid. So that seemed to work for us.
Okay.
I like that.
Yeah, character first, man.
I like that. Tom.
I would say, I think the very first thing I'll say is we kind of made a commitment as a family. You're our kid first, and you'll always be our kid. This football thing is cool, but don't ever, when I asked Nick what the greatest thing I could do for him in this process, his comment was, don't stop being dad. And I think, when you see others trying to do that, you fall into the trap of, you see the offer hungry pieces, you see the trying to live. It's not my kid's burden to live the things that I may have wanted to. That it's their story and to help them write their story. So I think the first one is your kid's always your kid. The second one is enjoy the process. And it brings a lot of stress, anxiety. And you got to find great allies in the process. I can look at 3 guys right here who helped me through the process. Each of you I had individual conversations with that brought a sense of, Reggie, you said it. You guys, it was kindred spirits. We're all kind of going through this. And there's things that we want to say but not say. And we all figure out how to say them to help us through that. And I think you got to find those other people in the process who are going to be honest with you and you can be honest with them. And sometimes those aren't going to be your closest people around you. And I think you got to find some like-minded pieces going through that. And I think the last piece is, and it's a Northwestern saying now, is you're playing long ball, not short ball. And I think the hardest thing is don't ever sacrifice something long term on the altar of temporary. And I think that's where you got to know what you want, know what you believe, and stay true to that. And that's been our North Star. That's been our compass, if you will, that's gotten us through maybe things where we allowed the noise to get into our head at times. So I think it's those three things: allies, and know what you believe, and don't compromise.
Great answers from everybody. I think I'm going
Can I add something real quick?
Absolutely.
Yeah, just on the other side of things, I'm going to reference Tom here. Right after Braden made his decision, I was struggling, man. It was like, oh, wow. Even with all the boxes that were checked on Northwestern, right? It was like, oh, was that the right decision? This other school, this, and what about that other school? And I talked to Tom, and Tom said he kind of experienced something similar, almost like a buyer's remorse. You know what I mean? Such a big decision.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably pretty normal for parents, at least, to kind of feel that way immediately after the decision, to kind of wonder and second guess a little bit and that sort of thing. But just talking to Tom was therapeutic, man. It was like, okay, I'm not the only one who's feeling this way.
Yeah. And we've had calls. You and I have had some couple calls after some games. Let's face it, Northwestern had a really bad year this year.
Yeah.
It's tough. And we had to look at it and say, man, I still love you. You know what I mean? I still think it's great because we're one season away from being in the Big Ten championship. They've done it twice already, and it's whatever. But it's really, I'd love to see a national championship out of this team, but I don't want my son to go here because of a national championship. I wanted my son to go here because of so much other stuff. Football is a big part of his life, and it's a big part of his dreams. He wants to do it, but there's so much more to it. And if you still want to come here when they're 3-8, then that's what you want to go to. So, I'll make a quick answer to this question when I try to give people advice. Coach Holtz was the coach I played for, and he had a lot of wisdom to pass down to us. And he always said, if you want to be successful in life, surround yourself by people who care, right? It's not a coincidence that, I try to start this dad's group together, right? Because you guys are going through what I'm going through. You guys are having the decisions I'm having. When I need to think about what's going on with the football field, I need to call somebody who's in the same situation I am. And you guys have been great. And I'm not surprised you guys have been great. When my son grew up and he was playing sports, and, I was gifted, I shouldn't say gifted enough. I was blessed enough to be able to coach my son in sports. And I fostered the relationships with the kids who I thought were better kids for my son. Now, I don't forbid my kids from hanging out with people because I think they got to be able to make decisions, and there's bad kids in their life to do it. But when my son says, I want to have a couple of kids over, I'm like, all right, this kid, and this kid, I'll go get them. And I'm grabbing peaches and I come back. Okay, yeah, boom. Because I know he's going to be friend, whatever. But this kid's parents were great. This kid was a good athlete. This kid was a good student. We're having a party tonight. We had a basketball team. 10 kids on my son's basketball team that he played with from kindergarten till 7th grade. 10 of them are playing Division I sports, right? 5 football players, 3 basketball players, a rugby player, and a soccer player. Now, that was more coincidence, but when I start telling people, like when they ask what's the formula, I was like, you know what? My son, Reg, was kind of uncoordinated when he was little, but not his friends. So when he had a play date, it was like a track meet. It was like a what do you call that game where they jump and they spin on stuff, whatever it is. He had to like train to go play because these dudes were such good athletes, and it crossed over. They were all good students, right? When my son was young, he wasn't so fond of the books. Now that he's in high school, all of a sudden it clicked because he wanted to go here. We're in an area where we saw, people going to college and doing stuff, and he's training with different people. So I go back to what Coach Holtz says, like when you want to be successful, you got to surround yourself with people who want to be successful. It's hard to be the only one that goes to Division I. It's hard to be there. It's hard to be around that kind of stuff because there's so many temptations to do it. And I think that these kids today, if you can just get your kid around the right people in the right situation, in the right programs, I think they'll maximize. Now, you can do it without doing all that stuff, but I like to get it to the best way possible. Gentlemen, I know that we all have free college for our son, but we still have to work and make money to feed our family. So I'm not going to hold you anymore. This is an amazing day, and I'm glad that you guys chose to spend some of that day with me. Look forward to 4 years and more of sidelines. Hopefully there'll be some NFL sidelines as well. If not, we'll have to have reunions in the next 4 or 5 years in Evanston and support the team forever. You guys are great. You're my brothers. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Congratulations to everyone.
Yeah, thank you guys very much. Looking forward to it. Great conversation today.
What are we supposed to do? Go Cats. How does that go now? Go Cats.
Yeah.
Go Cats.
I got to learn that. I'm not there yet.
I got to get there. So anyway, take care.